Imagine you are 19 years old. You are standing in a flooded ditch in Normandy. It is 2 a.m. on June 6, 1944. You are alone. You have lost your rifle, your squad, and your bearings. Every shadow is a German patrol. Every rustle of a leaf is a bayonet. In this darkness, your eyes are useless. You have only one way to tell a friend from a killer: a toy, a small brass cricket clicker. The code is simple. You click once. If the shadow in front of you is a brother, he clicks twice. One for two. Life or death. You see a figure. You click. You hear two clicks back. You breathe a sigh of relief and step forward, hand outstretched, ready to greet a fellow paratrooper. But instead of a friendly face, you see the flash of a Mauser muzzle. The two clicks you heard weren't an American greeting. They were an invitation to an ambush. The Germans have learned the code. They are using your own tool to hunt you like animals. But here's the twist. This isn't a story about American failure. It is a story about the ultimate mind game. It is about how the veterans of the 101st Airborne realized that a lie has a specific rhythm. They learned to hear the difference between a panicked American and a disciplined German, and they turned the cricket trap into a death sentence for the hunters. Welcome to World War II Mind Games. Today we deconstruct the acoustic reversal, the night U.S. paratroopers weaponized a compromise and turned a toy into a tactical masterclass. To understand the reversal, we have to look at the chaos of the D-Day drop. The airborne invasion was a disaster of logistics. Pilots, blinded by cloud cover and flak, dropped 13,000 paratroopers everywhere except their drop zones. Men were scattered across miles of hedgerows and flooded marshes. In the bocage of Normandy, visibility at night is often less than 3 feet. You couldn't use flashlights. That was a beacon for snipers. You couldn't shout, "Hey, is anyone there?" That was a death sentence. The solution came from the Acme Whistle Company in Birmingham, England. They manufactured a small, nickel-plated brass clicker, originally designed as a toy for children. General Maxwell Taylor ordered 7,000 of them. He knew his men would be deafened by the roar of the planes and the thunder of explosions. They needed a nonverbal, distinct sound that could pierce through the ambient noise of battle without sounding like a human voice. The protocol was challenge 1 click, response 2 clicks. On paper, it was genius. Brass is cheap. The sound is sharp. It mimics the sound of a cricket, a noise common in the French countryside. It was supposed to be the invisible handshake of the airborne. But the airborne had a fatal assumption. They thought they were the only ones listening. The Germans were not fools. The Wehrmacht's 91st Air Landing Division was stationed right in the middle of the American drop zones. Within the first 2 hours of the invasion, German patrols began hearing a strange metallic click-clack echoing through the trees. They didn't need a code breaker to figure it out. They captured a few paratroopers, found the brass toys in their pockets, and immediately understood the game. This is where the trap began. German soldiers began using 2 methods to mimic the sound. Some used captured crickets. Others realized that the bolt action of their Mauser car 98K rifles made a very similar sound when cycled quickly. If you pull the bolt back and push it forward, clack, clack, it sounds remarkably like a brass clicker at a distance. The Germans began fishing. A patrol would sit in total silence in a thick hedgerow. They would wait to hear a lone, lost American click his toy. Then they would respond with 2 clicks. The American, thinking he had found his squad, would walk directly into the center of a kill zone. By 3 a.m., the crickets were becoming dinner bells for the German infantry. Panic began to spread among the paratroopers. Word got around, the Krauts are clicking back. Don't trust the toy. Now we enter the mind game. How do you tell the difference between 2 identical sounds in pitch-black darkness? The answer lies in the psychology of discipline versus the psychology of fear. American paratroopers were terrified. They were clicking their toys with shaking hands. Their rhythm was irregular. It was human. A click would be followed by a hesitant pause, then 2 quick, nervous responses. It was the sound of a man looking for a friend. The German soldiers, however, were clicking with Prussian precision. In the German military culture of 1944, everything was about Ordnung, order. When a German soldier was told to mimic a sound, Tell me, Anton, he did it with the mechanical regularity of a metronome. Click, clack, click, clack. Perfect timing, perfect spacing. Veteran paratroopers, men who had survived the drops in Sicily and Italy, began to notice a pattern. If the response was too perfect, it wasn't an American. If it sounded like a machine was clicking, it was a German patrol waiting for you to show your head. But the Americans didn't just stop using the clickers. That would have left them blind. Instead, they weaponized the Germans' own mimicry. They realized the Germans were reactive. The Germans were waiting for the challenge so they could give the response. The Americans decided to flip the script. The reversal worked like this. An American paratrooper would click his brass toy once, the challenge. He would hear the perfect 2 clicks back from the bush 10 feet away. In the first hour of D-Day, that American would have walked toward the sound and died. But by the 4th hour, the American knew better. Instead of walking toward the sound, he would unpin a Mark II fragmentation grenade. He would wait. He would click again. The German, thinking the fish was getting closer, would click back again. He was confirming his position. He was shouting, "I am right here," in a language he thought the American trusted. The American would then toss the grenade toward the sound. Or better yet, he would wait for Hilbody, who had circled around the flank, to open fire on the source of the perfect clicks. The Americans began using the clicker as a searchlight of sound. They would click just to force the Germans to respond, thereby revealing their exact coordinates in the dark. It became a game of acoustic poker. Who would blink first? The Germans, realizing the Americans were onto them, began to hesitate. They stopped clicking back. But that created a new problem for the Germans. Now they couldn't tell if the shadow moving in the grass was one of their own men or an American paratrooper. The trust was broken on both sides, but the Americans had the advantage. They knew they were being hunted, but the Germans didn't realize they had become the bait. The cricket reversal is one of the most elegant examples of mind games in military history. It shows that in war, the most dangerous weapon is often the one your enemy thinks he understands. The U.S. Army stopped using the brass crickets within 24 hours of D-Day. They were a one-night-only tool. Once the surprise was gone, the toy became a liability. But in those critical hours of darkness, the ability to hear the rhythm of the lie saved hundreds of lives. It taught military planners a lesson that we still use today in the age of cyber warfare and digital signatures. It is not enough to mimic the signal. You have to mimic the behavior behind the signal. If you look at modern encryption or friend or foe identification systems, they are just high-tech versions of the brass cricket. And just like in 1944, the smartest players are the ones looking for the too perfect response. The Germans had the better soldiers, the better rifles, and the home field advantage. But they lost the night because they couldn't stop being too perfect. They fell into the trap of their own discipline. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the hidden history of World War II mind games, make sure to subscribe to World War II Survival.